Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of Random-ish. I'm your host, Eldridge, and tonight I want to talk about conscious bias. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think that we talk still about a lot about how we shape our lives and how we're conscious. We want to be consciously aware of how we're involved in the process of creating our reality and manifesting what it is that we want to be our reality. So as I was thinking about conscious bias, I was thinking about the word conscious itself. And according to the Oxford Dictionary, the word conscious itself means that you are awake and aware of one's surroundings and your identity. So just the fact that you're awake and aware of your surroundings says that you're conscious. The second piece of that is that the word awake is aware, to know, to have knowledge of something, and to be doing things that are intentional. And then the third piece about the whole conscious bias aspect of life is that your thoughts about meaning are conscious. They become your words become your actions become your character. So in thinking about that, I was thinking about what are some of the ways that I've actually seen conscious biases play out in life. And before I even tell you my classic example of how I've seen it play out, the ultimate way I've seen someone's conscious bias play out from obviously the text that they use or the different rhetoric that they use to shape the way that they're going to interact. It's really interesting how you can see that someone will commit social violations or go against the norm of a rule based on something that they've seen or something that they lived, and you'll see it consciously play out. One of the things about conscious bias is that the person is aware, they are fully aware of what they're doing. I mean, you hear a lot about unconscious bias where someone may offend you because they're ignorant to the fact of about a culture or something. But this, to me, when I talk about conscious bias, I'm talking about the fact that the person is absolutely aware of what they're doing. So that's the first thing that you want to do. The person is in the process of shaping the reality and being shaped by the reality that they're creating by the bias. And that goes to say whether it's unconscious or conscious bias, but the fact of the matter is that this person is actively involved and actively engaged in the outcome, and they're willing and they're aware of what they want to have happen. So what I'm saying, they're actively participating in the process. Whereas when someone is unconscious, they may be participating in a process and going through emotions on rote or automatic pilot because they've seen it enacted somewhere in their family or what have you as a child. And they may have a subconscious memory that's stirring them to act in a certain way. Whereas when someone is conscious, they're actually doing it. They know what they're doing, and they're purposely doing the actions or going through the motions to do what it is to carry out the action. And they're literally seeking out additional text, additional billboards, additional movies, additional books, additional social media venues and posts in order to validate the actions that they are engaging in, whether it is something that is negative or positive. They always have to seek out different texts to help consciously say, yeah, I was right. Because one of the things about human nature is that, again, I think I told you before in the rituals video, is that we go through rituals because we need to make sense of life, and then we have to actually figure out or close the gap of the unknown. We really want to make sure that we understand or try to predict what's going to happen. So the same thing with conscious bias, what we do is we get into these cycles where we create these fantasy themes in our head, and those themes are based on what we see or what we use to shape or create the world in which we live. Now, that world in which we live or the things that we're using to shape our reality are really going to tell us whether or not we're acting out a certain bias and how to act out that bias. So, for example, if we have biases about women in the workplace or marriage or how we're supposed to act, we will seek out texts that'll actually explain to us how we're supposed to be when it comes to marriage, when it comes to working in corporate America, how to engage in basic dialogue with someone. You'll actually see the ideology played out in a text. And so, for example, for me, I watched images of how women engage in certain behavior, and no matter what color they were, I like to think that I learned something from a diverse group of people to teach me how to pick and choose how I'm going to act when I'm in certain situations. And this is how I know that when we have biases in life, we are consciously aware of what we're doing, because even though we may not think we're doing it, our brain will go back and it will pull images when we get into a certain situation to tell us how we're supposed to act. So for example, how I'm supposed to engage in dialogue and conversation with you, whether I'm in work, whether I'm in church, whether I'm in school, and how I'm supposed to interact with you. And you'll see it across the decades. So for example, it doesn't matter who gave you the information. It's whether the information, what it does and how you use it to consciously choose how you're going to enact or interact in a situation. So for example, some of the images that come to life for me when I choose and think about some of my biases about a lot of things that I choose, the way that I dress, how I carry myself. I know that I'm consciously biased toward images from the 50s, such as Joan Cleaver. There was also your Aunt Jemima images. So you had this juxtaposition of what you wanted to look like and consciously a bias as to what you didn't want to look like. For most of us, you never saw images of women of color that were dressed very well, that were projecting neatness and a certain style or a sense of economic, social status, until I think a lot of women identify with Jill Cleaver or somebody like a Donna Reed. But I know for me, going into the 60s and things changed a little bit, I started to see people like Julia. I never forget seeing Julia. So Julia, and then Diana Ross, especially her of the Supremes, that really did shape consciously my bias of the way that women should look and how they should carry themselves, both in professional environments as well as in entertainment environments, because you had two iconic figures. You had Diane Carroll as Julia, a nurse, a single mother, a widow of a war veteran. And then you had Diana Ross, who was the lead singer of the Supremes, who rose up from the projects to become one of the most prolific, profound, iconic figures of all time. I still worship the boss, Miss Ross. You go, Diana. Then there was Twiggy in the 70s. I mean, she told us how we're supposed to look, and we had conscious biases about body image, because everything about Twiggy was the absence of any kind of curve. Interesting how that still shapes and it forms the way that we see and how we do body shaming today in this world. Again, a conscious bias, because we're looking at people, referring to an image in our past as a reference, as a way to identify how we're supposed to consciously interact or feel or evaluate someone in the present. And then you come into the 80s, and I had all of these different juxtapositions and images, because it was Dallas, where you had some women who the way that they dressed and stuff was more with the big shoulder pads and more businessy, and that power image. And the clothing was there to give you a conscious image of what you were supposed to look like if you were a woman in power. Then we had Oprah, this primetime powerhouse on Talk TV for women like myself, saying what it looked like. But then you also had the clowns on Jerry Springer's show too, the ones just acting a fool, and of course Maury Povich. So you had different conflicted images, which allowed us to have different biases about what we aspire to be and what we aspire not to be, and what we want to stay away from and what we gravitate to. So for me, when it got to the 2000s, what was really interesting is when I was watching Sex and the City, I was kind of looking at Sex and the City to try to see what were the images, the conscious images that they were trying to get us to partake in. And so I had to consult with some of the theoretical groundings of people like Michel Foucault, Dr. Barry Brummett, Edward Mabry, Catherine Dendia, Kataruparam Supriya, the Time Bowers, and Perry Mays. And from all of those different scholars, they exposed me to different schools of thought, where I learned to see myself, but also others through various lenses. And the combination of using all of these different theorists along with the images from past, present, and what I'm doing now, projecting into future, helped to shape my conscious biases. Now, the thing is that I'm doing this because I really want to be aware of how anything that I might be doing may be something that goes against the philosophy that I have, the interactions that I have with people. They're always supposed to leave people better off than when they interact with me, never worse off. So I'm supposed to engage in dialogue with people or interactions with people that enlighten. That means we both learn something from it. We are inspired by one another, and we're inspired to do better because of our interaction. And we go out, and as a result, we uplift one another. So then I got to thinking about, conscious bias. And don't we all have conscious bias? Don't we all have conscious biases about social interactions, no matter what it be, whether it be a religious interaction, whether it be a social interaction, whether it be a familiar interaction, or whether it be a corporate interaction? And sometimes those social interactions that we consciously should be aware of how we interact, and we choose what we do in those interactions, it crosses the boundaries of all occupations, it crosses genders, it crosses everything. So when I think about it, though, I think about all the different texts that we have coming at us, all the different TV shows, all the different movies that we have, all the different familial interactions that we have over the course of decades that shape us, and how we are using those interactions from past to shape our present, which is going to impact our future. So when I think about conscious bias, if you think about consciousness, that you're actually aware and awake of what your surroundings and your identity are, shouldn't we be aware, consciously aware and awake and tuned in and enlightened to understand the impact of the things that we look at every day, and how we take in those messages to consciously make us be biased in ways that we might not even think about? And it's small things that sometimes we do it. And I know that people do it on purpose. I've actually seen evidence of a person doing it on purpose. But so when somebody is doing something on purpose, but here's something to think about. If we're using text, movies, social media, people, every single object that we can come in contact to consciously tell us how we should be at that very moment in time, have you ever thought about the things that you're viewing, the people that you're interacting with, the social media that you're engaging and looking at, specifically what types of content you're actually engaging in to help you create your specific conscious reality, and how that reality might make you be biased to things that you would otherwise be more tolerable of? Think about conscious bias acts that you construct from what you see, and you use those acts to validate who you are. It's tied to your personal values. So if I see something and I start to act on that way to say that I consciously want to be a certain way, then I'm doing exactly what I said that I didn't want to do when I'm talking about unconscious bias. The fact of the matter of saying that I didn't know something, so I acted a certain way. But the fact that I choose to do certain things, even when I'm aware that I'm doing, and I understand that it might be negatively impacting somebody else, but I choose to continue to engage in looking at programs, or engaging in dialogue with people, or engaging in reading articles, or engaging in viewing social media content that makes me consciously act in direct conflict with the way that I know that I should act, then what am I doing to myself? Why am I doing that to myself? What am I doing to help manifest the type of reality that I want to manifest? And then when it doesn't manifest, why should I even ask myself, why did I get the reverse of what it is that I said that I consciously wanted? So you have to be conscious of this the next time that you come face to face with somebody. So I'm gonna give you the example where I know that people are consciously biased. So imagine every day you go to work, you walk down the aisle, you walk down the hallway, and you see people in the morning. And most of the time when you look somebody dead in the face, when you walk in toward them, what is the first thing you do? You say good morning, or you'll say morning. At least, even if it ain't a good morning, the fact of Jack Webb, just the facts, ma'am, is that it's morning. So if you just say morning, the person can say, morning to acknowledge that you actually exist, because of certain behaviors, which we said consciously we seek out to validate our existence. So we know that for a fact that a greeting in the morning, when you speak to somebody and you look them dead in the face and they can see you and see you say good morning or morning, and then they don't speak, don't tell me that that's not conscious bias, because you got to show me, you got to tell me in what context, in what text, in what situation, under what circumstances do I walk towards you in the morning, see you every single morning, and I don't speak to you, and I look you dead in your face and I see you. I don't necessarily work with you, or I don't really know you, but common courtesy says that in all social situations that I was told, whether I was in church, school, walking on the street, I remember was little, you just go, what's up, like, bro, man, if nothing else. You acknowledge a person when you're going down the street. It's a part of being aware of your surroundings. So if I'm in a grocery store, church, whatever, if somebody says morning to me or hi to me, most people are gonna, just like me, correct me if I'm wrong, you can put it in a comment if I'm way off base thinking that something's wrong with me for thinking that if I say hi to somebody and good morning to somebody, my expectation should be that that person should say hi or morning back to you or something, to let me know I'm alive and I'm breathing. I'd be like, didn't I just say good morning to you? Wait a minute, didn't I say hello? Didn't I say hi? So I just want to see if you are conscious of this. The next time you come face to face with someone, look them in the eye and say good day, and see if they consciously look at you and, yeah, okay. Be careful of the text. Be careful of the music, the videos, the books, the social media, the magazines, the institutions, and the people you allow to help you shape your consciousness. Be aware of the propaganda and the rhetoric, the words, because it's all part of shaping what manifests in and as your consciousness. Again, think about it. If I say good morning to you, are you consciously biased in that you look at me and it's something about me that makes you just not say good morning? Is that a conscious bias? I think so. I don't know, whatever you think, whatever your frequency is, you can put it in the comments section. But remember, I need 1,000 subscribers. I need 4,000 watched hours to get to be able to bring you on camera, to have your feedback. I want to know what your frequency is. So subscribe, like, comment, share, and until next week at 8 o'clock, this is Voices, and I'm out, y'all.